Hi, I'm Sara Reed, founder of Moonstone Coaching and Consulting. I'm excited to come here today and talk to you about how to attract the right job. So let's jump in here. All right. So I want to first of all thank Mount Mary and the alumni group for the Power Lunch series and sponsoring me here today. It's been a great effort. This is the fourth one we've done in this series, and I've really enjoyed it, and it's been a pleasure. And first of all, for those of you online, now live, I'd love to hear from you. So please share your questions and comments in chat. You should see that on the left of the screen for those of you that are online on a screen as opposed to just listening in via phone. So don't hesitate to say hi. So today I'm going to share a few tips on how to attract the right job to you. A little bit about me first, if you don't mind. I spent most of my career in recruiting. I started at 17 in a staffing firm right before I entered college at University of Wisconsin-Madison. So you'll see from the screen here a couple things about me. I'm a Disney lover. You'll also see a little Disney. You can't see it here, but there's this little Disney mug that's half Starbucks and half Disney. So I'm a Disney geek at heart, but I'm also a lover of helping people through career challenges and people who are stuck and lost in their career. And I came to that point because after 14 years at a company called Robert W. Baird, a financial services firm, I got to the point where I was unhappy and grumpy, especially on Sunday nights. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, where I was grumpy with my lovely family down there. You'll see my husband Jim and my daughter Maddie in the bottom. I was grumpy with them. On Sunday nights, was the worst. Saturday wasn't so bad, but Sunday I would just be really not myself. And I knew that something was wrong and that I needed to make a change. And when I really looked at what the problem was I had grown in my career and I worked for a great organization at Baird, wonderful people I worked with. But what happened was the portion of my job I liked was about this big, right, 3 inches wide. It was the coaching and the mentoring of people. And I led the talent acquisition function there, so the hiring or the recruiting function within HR. But the rest of my job outside of that coaching and mentoring was like this big. Oh, I got to stay in the screen. Like 6 feet wide, which was going from meeting to meeting, dealing with strategy decks, not helping people one-on-one. And I was really craving that because that's where I'm really, really, truly gifted. So that's when I decided to launch my coaching practice. And that was 4+ years ago now. And I love being able to talk to folks like you, help people who are stuck and lost in their career figure out, how do I do this in the best way possible that's going to serve me? And this topic is like really close to my heart, and I'm excited to talk about it today because it's so much of what I focus on with my clients. So we'll keep moving along here and get into the good stuff. As soon as I click the right button here. There we go. So I'd love to hear if anyone wants to share in chat. Don't feel you have to, but if there's anything that you specifically want to get out of today's webinar, please don't hesitate to share in chat. But I'll keep moving along and I'll keep an eye on that. So what do I mean by attract the right job? And I say that specifically attract the right job because here's what I found. I hear a lot from people that say, I can do that, I can do that. And what I mean by I can do that, they're looking at a job description or they're looking at a posting on a website, what have you. And they go from this mode of like, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And if you feel kind of the energy of that, it's a little frenetic, it's a little intense and maybe not necessarily grounded. And the other piece of that is that what happens is it's often accompanied with this feeling of I want to run from my current job. Right? And I'm a believer. Anybody ever experienced that, right? Wanting to run as opposed to really coming from a place of like power and strength and knowing. And what happens is when you are in that mode of I can do that, you're running from that job, what you bring is this big old suitcase of baggage with you, right? And oftentimes that is things that are going to haunt you in your next career. And what I find, and I've heard from clients and I've heard from other people in my career, is that you're unhappy again. And you're like, oh, but this was the job I thought I wanted, right? And this was the company I was all excited about, but I'm still unhappy. And oftentimes you're missing a key component to going about the job search process. And that's what we're going to dig into today. So the first tip I want to talk about is really getting clear on you, right? And I'll tell you what I kind of mean by that and why it's so important. So getting clear on you is really making sure you take the power back with the job search process. So you get out of that mode of I can do that, and you're running from something. Instead of you want to get grounded and clear on what your values are, what are your likes and dislikes at work. You want to look at past work experience so you can paint a picture of who you are and what you're about. And I've talked a little bit about some of these pieces in some of the previous webinars, and they're really, really crucial, I think, when you're looking at either your career or your life, getting clear on you and getting solid and grounded in that. Because I know for me, I had spent 25 years in my career in recruiting and HR, and I got to the point, part of my unhappiness, I also realized not only was it about the job wasn't a great fit, I kind of lost my center. I had flexed and bent to what the needs of the organization were, that I had forgot what was important to me and what was really motivating for me and what brought me joy. And that's why this is a big part of what I focus on my clients, because I lived it and I experienced that and I'd forgotten that. So if I would have not gone through this process for myself on my own, I could have easily gone out and got a different job, not launched my business, and been in the same spot in a year or two. And I want to try to prevent people from doing that and make sure they're going about it from a different way that's more about bringing things to you as opposed to running away from things. Sorry, I'm moving my arms a lot here. Keeps you all awake. Okay, so getting clear on you, let's dig into that a little bit more. So talking about your values, right? Why is that so important? I think it reminds you of at your core of who you are. And I don't know if any of you have ever done a values exercise or not, but it's really just getting clear on what's important to you, right? And it can shift and change a little bit over time. And what you see here on the screen is just a list of some values. You can create this on your own, but I think when you're out of alignment, oftentimes it's about this, right? When you're out of alignment in your job, it's often the core of it is about the values. And I'll give you an example. I have a client that I've worked with, and she likes her job duties, but she's really unhappy. And when we started to dig into this work, she realized, and she kind of had an inkling about this before we started working together, but she realized part of her challenges is one of her values is around nature and the environment. That's really important to her. It's core of who she is. And she worked for an energy company. Right? And energy companies aren't known for always being the cleanest, right? And if you're really pro-environment, that was a disconnect, and it's a rub for her. And it's so strong that it's kind of permeating all aspects of her work life, so that even though it's a job she likes, she's not happy anymore. So really getting clear on this piece is crucial, because sometimes it's not about the job that you don't like, it's about the place. And I think oftentimes getting clear on that is a really big step in making sure you can attract the right thing and go after the right thing next. All right, so likes and dislikes, right? This is a little bit more tactical, a little more investigating kind of some surface previous history, not as hardcore as your values, right? So things are to think about. Do you prefer to work with people or data, right? Do you want to work for a small or a big company? What industries interest you, right? Do you have an interest to be in hospitality, or do you like financial services, or do you want to be in education, or do you want to be in design? I think digging into those things so that you get really clear on that foundation of you and the core of you, so that you can get out of this I can do that mode and really focus on what's important to you and what you want and what you like. I think the other thing is to look at your past. And what I mean by this is, what was your favorite job? And then examine what about that was your favorite. Was it the people you were working with? Was it about the culture? Was it about the job duties themselves? And dig in and do some exploratory work on that so you can make some assessments on, oh, this is what I liked about it, and really get clear on those pieces. Oh, I didn't think about, it was really more about the people. I didn't care that it was about the job, because I find that everybody's driven a little bit differently, right? Some people, they're more driven in their career by the people they work with or the company they work with, and less about the job. And then there's other people who are like, I don't care about the people. I'm more introverted. I just want to do this really cool work. And none of those are wrong answers. It's just getting clear on what it is for you so that you can make sure you go about your job search process in the right way, right? Another thing is thinking about that best company that you ever worked for. It could be when you were 15 years old and you haven't found it since, and you want to get back to that. So look at what made that the best company. Look at their values. It's probably a big part of being that alignment piece. Your values and their values were somewhat in alignment. And then thinking just about, when was I happiest at work and why, right? Digging into that as well gives you more data and more information as to why you were happy, what's important to you, what you like, and really looking at that. So why is this important, right? Why are you going to do all this work, right? It gives you a roadmap of what you want, right? It gives you a list of many of the elements that are important to you in a job, right? If you think about it, we talked about values. You list out those values. I have a worksheet that I do with my clients that is literally 2 columns. It is elements and it is possibilities. On the element side, it's all those pieces like what you look for in a culture, or it's pieces like a big company or a small company, or I want to do really analytical work, or I don't want to work with people that much. Whatever those pieces are, you list them all out, right? And then this serves as your roadmap and your clue as to what's important to you, so you can map that to that next job description or to that next opportunity you talk about with a friend. All right, so because when you get clear about you and what you want, you shift your energy to a much more powerful and positive state, right? In the beginning, I talk about that I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, right? It's more like external and chasing after something as opposed to really standing in your ground and being really in alignment with you, right? That alignment is crucial. This is supposed to be a picture of a spine. I couldn't find some good pictures of vertebrae, so this is what we got, because otherwise they looked creepy. But hopefully you get the picture, right? When you're in alignment, when your spine's in alignment, you're feeling good, right? No different than when you go about the job search process and when your values are in alignment with the company, when your likes and dislikes are in alignment with the company and the job, then you're feeling good and you're out of center. Now, I always like to say that alignment isn't always 100% perfect, right? You don't always have an organization, or it's maybe not necessarily a correct expectation or possible to find an organization that's going to 100% align your values and their values, because it's an organization and you're a person, right? It's not a perfect alignment, but it's getting clear on what are those deal breakers for you, right? So if honesty is a deal breaker for you and you've heard bad things about that organization, that might be a problem, right? Or maybe you don't care as much about nature as much as you care about honesty. And just getting clear on where are you willing to be a little off kilter with an organization, and just knowing that and being aware, because then you can own it and just be okay with that, as opposed to being unaware and walking into a situation where you feel like, wow, I'm unhappy and I can't figure out why. So think about this, right? When you're in alignment, when you're clear on who you are, what you're all about, the process becomes more clear and less stressful, right? You aren't chasing after job descriptions like I can do that, I can do that. You have this whole list of things either in your mind or on paper, however you choose to quantify that and reconcile that you can use as a foundation and something to match to when you're looking at different opportunities. So more clear, less stressful, and your confidence increases because you're not in this mode of like, I don't know who I am, but I could do that. I think I could do that. I've done that before. You can feel the energy that just shifting. And you project yourself more clearly in an interview and networking situations, right? I do this activity with everyone that I work with when they're looking to make a job shift, because it also serves as great material for your resume. It serves as great material for talking points when you're trying to position yourself in an interview or in a networking situation, because you can go back to, hey, this is what's important to me, right? This is what I look for in a culture, because you figured it all out. You're not doing it on the fly, and you did it outside of matching it to a job, right? And kind of, I always say that you need to do this before you start looking out there, because then you try to kind of trick yourself like, oh, that's fine. I'll be fine with that. Well, you're really going to be fine with the fact that the company pollutes the environment, and nature environment are a really big thing for you. So you got to be really focused on making sure you look at this without external forces so that you get clear on it. And this is one of my favorite quotes. There's no scarcity of opportunity to make a living at what you love. There's only scarcity of resolve to make it happen, right? So the next tip about attracting that right job to you is to take action, right? Now you've done some kind of more internal work and examination, getting clear on the foundation of you. Okay, when I say attract the right job, I just mean going about it in the right way. I wish it could like magically come to you. I mean, that'd be really cool, but let's be real. You do need to take some action around it. But now you're going to come from a more knowledgeable space about you and what you want. And that totally shifts things for you, as we mentioned before. So what I mean by taking action is you want to conduct now. You're in this mode where you can conduct an empowered job search. You can review jobs online in a different way, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. You can utilize and build your network. You can stay focused on a positive mindset. That's another crucial piece. So Now you're clear on who you are, what you value, what you like, what you don't like. You can get back to those job boards and change that energy from I can do that to do I want to do that, right? Does that align with the things that I've figured out are important to me? And does this company culture align with the things that are important to me? So you can come from a totally different energy, right? And you see the power in like, oh, this doesn't match with that. I'm okay with that. It takes away some of that anxiety and stress and pressure by just being able to get grounded in you first. And I want to do a side note. This is kind of like a bonus tip, the truth about job descriptions, because I see this all the time and I hear it from clients. Don't take them as law. Don't treat them as the Bible. The reality of a job description when you see posted online, wherever you find it on Indeed, on LinkedIn, they are never HR or hiring manager's priority, right? I spent a long time in HR and I always wanted to make it priority and I wanted to make our job descriptions better, but it always fell down the list. And hiring managers were always under the gun when they had to hire someone. They may have lost someone and they're like, okay, we just got to get this out there. So not as much time is often spent, I'm not saying this for all organizations, but for a lot of them, is spent on a job description as you think. But I found as a job seeker, you often put so much value on that job description. And you think that it is, I got to match this 99%, right? Like, well, I didn't have this bullet and I haven't done that, right? On this job description paper, right, that you're looking at. The reality is it's probably more like 65 to 70%, right? Because what have you got to lose? Don't prevent yourself from applying for something that interests you that may feel like it's out of your comfort zone. It might be less out of your comfort zone than you think. Because the reality is hiring managers and HR leaders, they fill out those job descriptions and they don't expect to get 100% of what's on paper. I mean, some crazy ones do, I'm going to be honest. I've witnessed that. But the ones that are realistic about the job market and what it's like to attract good talent, they know there's some give and take. So that means you can have some give and take when you're looking at job descriptions and just be thoughtful about that. Because I've seen too many people stop themselves from applying for jobs and going after jobs that were great fits for them just because of one line on a responsibilities sort of section or one line on the qualifications. Don't let that stop you. The worst that can happen is they say no, but what if they say yes, right? What if you get a call back? What if you get an interview? So don't let that job description deter you from applying for something that you think could be a good match, even if it's not 99%. I say give it 65, 70 maybe. So the other piece around taking action and looking at, attracting the right job to you is utilizing your network, right? My recommendation always is you never want to use one job search strategy. You always want multiple kind of channels of how you're looking to go after your next career move. So the job boards are great, but I always say to clients, I've seen this to people, that sometimes it's a straight road to depression because it can get a little mind numbing. It's very labor intensive. There's robots looking at your resume oftentimes, right? There's applicant tracking systems that are looking at your resume, looking at those keywords, and they're not even seeing who you are. So you don't want to make that your only strategy. The other piece is really about utilizing your network, right? So you want to reach out to people on LinkedIn. And if you're not on LinkedIn, make sure you get on LinkedIn because it's a great tool and resource for most industries at this point in time, and connect with people, right? That's a great way to maybe you make a list of target companies that you're interested in working at. So go search on LinkedIn and look up who you know that works there or who you know that knows someone that works there and make an introduction and use that messaging feature, right? If you're an introvert and you don't, like I talked about this at the networking webinar, and you don't like to go out to big events, do it online, right? Find a way to have phone conversations with people or one-on-one conversations that feel more comfortable. Go to local networking events once you're past that technology piece, it's that strategy, and build new relationships, make connections, and you can come from this place of like, hey, here's a little bit of who I am and what I want and what's important to me in a company. So it makes your pitch and your conversation so much easier when you're at those events. You're not leading with like, well, I could do this job, or I could do this job. You could do this job. You say like, hey, this is a little bit about my background, right? Background in HR. I love to work with people. I value knowledge, education, and connection. And I'm looking to talk to people that have similar values, right? And looking at organizations that are of interest, are aligned with that, right? So those are some other strategies that you want to take advantage of beyond just looking at job boards. Because I think old stats used to say that like 85% of the jobs aren't online. I don't think I believe that anymore, the way that technology has gotten, but not all of them are. And the trick is you want to get in front of before they're posted, right? You want an organization to know you or get connected to some people there so that you can really enter that space more smoothly, right? And it's not just about having to apply online, going through all that process. I always recommend if you find a job posting online, you want to try to find a person within that organization to also connect you with HR, right? So you apply online, you go through the normal procedures, but you find somebody through your LinkedIn network or your personal network that works there and can also vouch for you and say, hey, Emily just applied for this job. I know her and I really respect her, like her. Hopefully you can take a look at her resume. That's a huge value to have somebody vouch for you and get your resume noticed, especially in this age of technology where literally systems are reading resumes before sometimes recruiters see them. Positive mindset, right? You went through all that work on the front end of getting in touch with your values and reminding yourself of what's important to you and who you are and what you like. The other piece is really making sure you stay focused on what you want next in your career and staying in that positive mindset, because it can be a bumpy road, right? You get automatic rejection sometimes. You don't see something that is of interest to you. You feel like it's never going to happen, right? Because I always relate the job search process to a little bit like running a marathon, but you don't know how long the marathon is, right? It's like out there and you don't see the finish line and you're like, is this ever happening? So staying positive and staying present on what are the activities you're doing and staying focused on what you want, making sure you visualize those things are helpful things to stay positive. And also set those intentions before you conduct your job search activities. Think about what you want from it. How do you want it to feel? What do you want it to look like? Can be a really good way to kind of make sure you're setting out for a successful search. And I think it's also about remembering to get in alignment with who you are and what you want before you start the job search process. We talked about that today as we wrap up here. You want to remember what's important to you and where your values are so that you stay in alignment with you in your job, because we don't go to work, this work human being, and then come home a person, right? It all comes together, right? So you want to make sure that all of you is on board with whatever the job is or that company you want to work for. And then you want to take action from a place of power and keep a positive attitude so that you're not running from this desperate, frenetic place, that you're really going like, oh, I want to do that. That aligns with who I am. I'm interested in that company. They'd be interested in me, from this place of kind of confidence and positivity, which makes the whole process so much smoother and easier. And any questions? I know we've got a couple people online. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to fire them away. I think some people often ask me what's my favorite strategy for kind of going about and finding jobs. I love LinkedIn. I mentioned it before. There's some really good features, whether you are a premium member or a free member. Dig into my favorite tip around that is looking at a company, right, on LinkedIn. You search for that company, and then you can see all of the employees that work at that company. And then you can filter down what are your first degree of connections, what are your second degree of connections, your third degree of connections, where do they go to school, all this filtering capability for you to gain knowledge on that organization or try to find people that might know you that could help you move forward within that organization. So I think we'll wrap it up from here. I don't see any questions. I don't think we've got any from the peanut gallery. I think we're good. I want to thank you for listening today. If you have any questions, I'd love to stay connected. Don't hesitate to email me. My email is Sara@Moonstone Coaching and Consulting. Don't hesitate to connect with me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of articles and publishing posts on LinkedIn. So if you'd like some more information, a little bit more about me, please don't hesitate to reach out. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Moonstone Coach. And I'm also on Facebook at Moonstone Coaching and Consulting. And then don't know that I do this for a living. So if you ever feel like you have a need to really dig deeper in this and you need some support and you're having a hard time doing it on your own, don't hesitate to reach out to me. So again, thank you for your time and appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Take care.